So we're right in the heart of the NBA playoffs with several key games. Let's get you caught up on all of the great action. It was a sea of yellow in Utah as the Jazz looked to tie the series at 2 games apiece with the Houston Rockets. First quarter, James Harden probing. Look at him, dancing a little bit and finishing with the sweet floater. And then Joe Ingles with the rock, and it eventually ends up in the hands of a Rookie of the Year candidate, Donovan Mitchell. The shot is pure. Beautiful shot from him. Fans loving it. Second quarter, Jazz trailing 49-37. Then Royce O'Neal rocking number 23 and jamming it like Mike Jordan used to. Here's Chris Paul. He's looking for that first real deep playoff run, weaving, finishing in traffic there. And he's loving that action, too. James Harden here, the bearded one, penetrating and finding Clint Capella. They've been making that play all season, and they make it look easy as well. Rockets win it 100-87. So Game 4 features the Golden State Warriors and New Orleans Pelicans. Kevin Durant and the Warriors looking to bounce back and ground the Pelicans after Anthony Davis and company won Game 3. KD with that Nowitzki-like fadeaway. Second quarter here, Pels trail 39-24. Rajon Rondo with the sweet dime. Even that baby can't believe it. Move on to the third. Dubs up 12. And you cannot leave the babyface assassin alone. Curry with that gooseneck 3 soaking wet. And a Dubs highlight and a highlight until Dre Measy gets to the party. Finishing with the dunk. Dubs up by 20+ in the fourth. They go on to win this one 118-92 with a 3-1 series lead. So from KD's bald spot to LeBron James's fading hairline. 15+ years in, and he's still letting his game do all the talking with that extra saucy reverse in the first quarter. That thing is dripping with sauce. Fourth quarter, close game. Serge Ibaka with that 3. The Raptors now trailed 92-88. All right, and then this play, this makes no sense. James, ridiculous fadeaway from near like the 3-point line. Cavs up by 5. Crunch time, 10 seconds left in regulation. The rookie, Anunoby, the young Obi-Wan Kenobi with the 3. Game tied, 3 seconds. Who gets the rock with the finish? Of course, LeBron James. Shooting it sideways, almost like he's playing horse on a Sunday afternoon after church. The Cavs are now 1 win away from bouncing the Raptors out of the playoffs for the 3rd straight year. DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, they cannot get it done. So it's not every day that you get to sit down and speak with a living legend. Someone who has one of the most recognizable names in all of sports. Someone whose voice is one of the most vocal among athletes when it comes to social injustices. Well, tonight, I go one-on-one with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and it's about the future of the NBA in Seattle.
It's really great to come to Seattle. I'm really sorry that the Sonics aren't still here. The city has grown so much. So much has happened here. You know, it's become such a world-class city, even more so than it was, you know, during the days when I was playing. You know, it's just gotten better.
That's NBA champion and the league's all-time leading scorer, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He played in more than 1,500 games over his 20-year career, devastating his opponents with his graceful skyhook. Jabbar is well aware of the Sonics' legacy in Seattle. We're talking greats like Lenny Wilkens, who played for the team and coached them to their only title in 1979. There are others also, like Spencer Haywood, Gary Payton, Shawn Kemp, and more recently, Kevin Durant. The history they leave behind only magnifies the absence of an NBA team right now.
If Seattle and Washington State were to get a professional basketball team, it would get all the support. Every time I have come here since the Sonics left, I hear the nostalgia, and people wish that they could watch their own team. Well, I think the NBA is doing very well today because they have just so many fans around the world. NBA TV is viewed on all the continents where people view television. That's pretty amazing. I never thought that would happen.
Which only makes sense that an NBA team returns to Seattle, a world-class city known for its diverse community.
If it should happen and it comes together where Seattle can get a franchise, it'll be a success from day one.
And Lord knows I really want a team to come to Seattle so I can go and enjoy the game and watch it in person.
I think a lot of people sure do.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
A quick side note, Abdul-Jabbar was here to speak at the annual gala for the King County Public Library Foundation.
I know you're going to be speaking with him, or we'll be hearing more from that conversation. Can you give us a little preview of what we'll hear?
Yeah, a quick preview. It'll be part 2, and we get into sort of everything that's going on in the world racially and socially. So that's coming out in the next few days.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Tonight, the National Basketball Association sent out a memo to the teams reinforcing a rule that players and coaches must stand for the national anthem. ESPN got a hold of the memo that came from Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum. And within it, it says individual teams, quote, do not have the discretion to waive that rule. NBA preseason games start tomorrow. With that said, last night I spoke to NBA legend Lenny Wilkens about athletes taking a stand against racism in America during the national anthem. That interview is coming up right around 10:15. So the debate surrounding the demonstrations during the national anthem in the NFL has divided our nation, some might say. And it's an issue that's divided fans of the same teams and people living right in the same city. But one person who knows the climate in Seattle very well is former Seattle Supersonics head coach and player Lenny Wilkens. And I spoke with him about the recent climate.
For it to still exist, okay, what else can we do? How do we address this situation?
NBA Hall of Famer, champion, former player, and Seattle Supersonics head coach Lenny Wilkens has a lot on his mind. We spoke about racism in the world and athletes choosing to take a stance against it during the national anthem. Some would say this has really been a problem for a long time, and Mr. Wilkens is no stranger to that.
As a youngster, I got stopped. I lived in St. Louis when you couldn't eat in the restaurants downtown. I mean, I went through a lot of that. So I think that to say, I was very disappointed in our president. You don't call them sons of bees. I mean, he should know better.
Wilkens tells me not only did he notice how President Trump responded to athletes choosing to peacefully take a stance against racism, but he saw and heard how the president responded to the Charlottesville, Virginia white nationalist rally that turned deadly.
I think that he always tries to make everything convenient for himself, okay? And what he said down there, that, you know, oh, there was nice people on both sides, you know, that's baloney, okay? And then all of a sudden, these are not good people. These guys, some of these guys were in the military.
Wilkens was in the military and understands how people fought and died for the American flag. But he also says people should stand up for what they believe in, especially when it involves everyone being treated equally.
These young men are getting that opportunity because they're on national TV all the time. And so they're saying that, hey, we support our brothers. We want them to have a fair opportunity, okay? And so for Michael Bennett to speak out, you know, Richard Sherman, I think it's great.
And he has a message for these athletes of today who are in the spotlight.
Many years ago, there were guys that had to be careful. You go back to Jackie Robinson. All right, I'm a big Jackie Robinson fan. I grew up in Brooklyn, in Bed-Stuy. I went to Ebbets Field. I saw him, okay? And he was a man on the field and off the field, all right? And he had to deal with a lot. But he still let people know that you have to respect me. Well, to the athletes, I tell them, keep supporting your brothers.
Now, Mr. Wilkens tells me that the president needs to understand that he represents everybody and he can't pick sides. He's one of the NBA's greatest players, but he's also one of the major voices when it comes to social injustices. I'm talking about NBA legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I had the chance to speak with him when he was here in town to speak at the annual gala for the King County Public Library Foundation. The athlete who was so vocal on the court is now weighing in on the state of our country.
Things are cyclical, and every now and then we have a negative cycle. Things definitely aren't as bad as they were, okay? In the 1920s, black Americans got lynched on a regular basis. It's not happening now, okay? So there have been changes positively. There are a lot of laws now that enable people to fight discrimination with the law on their side. This is a crucial change. It has made a difference. But every now and then there's some backsliding, and I think that's we're in that period now, and it's very unfortunate.
For decades, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has been a voice for those seeking social equality, especially in the civil rights movement. When it comes to the current political climate, he says there seems to be more racial tension these days as opposed to 10 to 15 years ago. For example, the Charlottesville, Virginia riots back in 2017, officer-involved shootings involving people of color, and discussions surrounding a border wall.
We have to deal with this. It's crucial, but we have the means and the will to overcome it. That's what Dr. King was all about. So we can't forget that. You know, we have to understand that it's not always going to be an easy path to get to where we want to go.
Abdul-Jabbar was born in the late 40s. He's dealt with racism throughout his life. He lived through the height of the civil rights movement. He was devastated when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated and chose in part to boycott the Olympics in the late 60s because of that.
I think Dr. King would have reminded us that he left us a few things to do. He left us some homework, some of the things that we had to deal with in order to really realize all of the fruits of the civil rights movement. And that one of the main things was economic empowerment in minority communities. That goes a long way to enabling minorities to catch up education-wise, to catch up financially, and be able to contribute to this great democracy that we have.
And Abdul-Jabbar has been fighting hard for equality for everyone. He's been educating, empowering, and encouraging people to love and respect one another.
I think the solution comes when Americans talk to each other. You know, we put a guy on the moon. You know, we can do a lot of stuff. So if we talk to each other about this problem and are honest about it and really want to change it, it'll happen. It's not easy, but it's accomplishable.
In his playing days, he accomplished a lot with his devastating yet graceful skyhook. Those days are over with, but he's still dishing out assists to anyone who will receive his message and listen.
My message for them is knowledge is power. Become as powerful as you can and go out and change the world to make it a better place.
Now, in his lifetime, Abdul-Jabbar has seen it all, and he says the main thing we should all do is love and respect each other. We follow that, the world will be a better place.
Yeah, good advice. And boy, just the way that he sees history and how far we've come, and yet to see the backslide, it's just such interesting perspective.
Yeah, great perspective from him. Pleasure meeting him.
Yeah.
Many headlines came out of last night's NBA All-Star game, and I'm going to spend the next 2 minutes explaining everything that happened. And as I do that, I want you to log on to king5.com/vote now to tell us, do you think athletes should weigh in on key political issues? Yes, no, or are you indifferent? Now, last night's new format allowed superstars LeBron James and Stephen Curry to choose their own All-Star teammates. And folks, it was a success with a very competitive game being played. Now, before the basketball was even bounced in this game, a lot of people were talking about this moment.
Still there.
So Fergie tried her own style with the national anthem, and that was the move that made some of the players laugh. As you see Curry there having a good moment there. But perhaps what has people talking the most is a recent interview with James and fellow superstar Kevin Durant, where they speak out and against President Trump.
The number one job in America, the point of person, is someone who doesn't understand the people and really don't give a about the people.
I feel like our team as a country is not ran by a great coach.
It's not even a surprise when he says something. It's not even a surprise. It's like laughable. It's like
it's laughable.
It's laughable and it's scary.
But it's also scary because I shouldn't be numb to your racist comments.
Right.
I shouldn't be numb to your behavior.
So those comments are making even more news because Fox News host Laura Ingraham decided to play one-on-one against James.
I called those remarks barely intelligible, not to mention ungrammatical. And last night, which is difficult to dispute, and the left erupted. Slate's piece was titled, "In Insulting LeBron James, Laura Ingraham proves James' point about racism." Oh, okay. It accused me of, quote, something vile and racist. Almost all the stories accused me of dog whistle commentary, and many claim my line that LeBron should shut up and dribble was racist. What? I wrote a book 15 years ago, fairly well-known, New York Times bestseller called Shut Up and Sing. And I've been using variants of that title to call out political celebrities for 15 years without regard for skin color, where you came from, what you do.
All right. After hearing those comments, James had this to say.
Will not just shut up and dribble because I mean too much to my two boys here, their best friend right here, my daughter that's at home, my wife, my family, and all these other kids that look up to me for inspiration and trying to find a way out. The best thing she did is gonna help me is create more awareness. So I appreciate her for even giving me even more awareness.
Now, Ingraham is now challenging James, tweeting, quote, "Hey King, come play on my court next week. You're invited on the show anytime." We'll see if James actually takes her up on that offer. Now, my main hope is this, that through their conversation, they can help bring together a divided nation. There is a such thing as freedom of speech, but there is a way to do things no matter who or what you believe in. And we've been asking you to vote in our live poll to tell us if you think athletes should weigh in on political issues. And right now the results say this. 48% of you say yes, and 45% of you say no, and about 6% of you are indifferent. And as always, we thank you all for voting. Here we have two teams with rich history going at it. As the Philadelphia 76ers try avoiding an 0-3 hole against the Celtics, Al Horford with the dime to Jason Tatum, he dunks it all over Embiid. And then Marco Bellinelli finds J.J. Redick in the corner, the sweet three, soaking wet. They close out the first quarter ahead. Rookie sensation Ben Simmons behind the back pass a la Magic. Embiid embarrasses Aaron Baines, puts him on a poster. University of Kansas and Cameroon stand up. Fourth quarter, it's that man again. Bellinelli sends the game into OT, tied at 89. And then the Celtics, they designed this beautiful play. They find Al Horford over the top. He finishes over a shorter Covington. Horford representing the Dominican Republic and his dad Tito, who played in the league very well, as the Celtics go on to win this game 101-98. That's it for our NBA playoffs recap. We'll see you soon.
Minneapolis, Minnesota, this one's for you.
Okay, a lot of people are on the fence about this particular moment here. Justin Timberlake's halftime performance last night is getting some tough criticism. The Timberlake show included this tribute to music great and music icon Prince, who's from Minneapolis. I want you to head to king5.com/vote now, and I want you to rate JT's halftime performance on a 5-star scale. So while you're voting, let me break down this controversy. Walk with me. First, this might be best summed up as a little bit of a misunderstanding. So TMZ referenced a Prince interview from the late 90s where Prince made it crystal clear that if he were to die, he would not want anyone using technology to create a musical moment or a hologram of him. And that's basically what Timberlake did yesterday. Now, Prince was no stranger to performing in Super Bowls. You're looking at his performance. This was back in 2007. Comedian Sinbad explained the second part of this controversy. So Sinbad mentioned when Timberlake came out with his smash hit Sexy Back, we all heard it, right? Prince's response was, oh, sexy never left, as in Prince has always been in the business of making sexy music.
It's a moment for me, if I'm being quite honest, because he's always been the pinnacle of musicianship for me.
So when I was watching that interview, I was kind of scratching my head too. What makes this a bit more confusing is that last night Timberlake did that interview with Jimmy Fallon, and he mentioned that Prince was his musical hero. He looked up to him. So if that's true, it makes you wonder why Timberlake would go against Prince's wishes in regards to using Prince's image in that hologram. Well, Jordan Wilkerson and I, we spoke about JT's halftime performance. You can find it on my Facebook and Twitter pages. Just search my name, David Espinosa Hall.
I didn't know the backstory, but now that I know, it does sort of change your opinion about the halftime performance. But we asked you what you thought about it. So we said on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate Justin Timberlake's Super Bowl halftime performance? Right now, you've got it rated at about a 2.9. So we're going to keep this up. We thank you for weighing in.
Yeah. So millions of people watch the Super Bowl today, and most of us have just that, that fan's perspective. But I wanted to hear from someone who's played in the NFL and in the Super Bowl. I had the chance to speak to Lawyer Malloy, who played for the Seattle Seahawks and also the New England Patriots.
The difference between the first Super Bowl that I lost and the second Super Bowl when we had the second chance was that we were ready, mentally. Me personally, my rookie year in 1996, where I was looking at the lights, looking at the entertainers, that had nothing to do with the game. My sixth year, being more of a captain, playing a more integral, more pivotal role, I was focused more on my team, more on the game, more about execution. And I think that was the biggest difference of those two games. You really don't know how you're going to feel until you host that Lombardi Trophy. The confetti coming down in your team's colors is one thing, but holding that trophy up, it was just like all my emotions from Eastside Boys Club here in Tacoma, Washington, junior high school ball, Lincoln High School, playing at UW, and then ultimately, all my years before that in the NFL, it all led up to that moment. It just put everything in perspective. Like, this is what all my hard work is for.
And Malloy won his championship with the Patriots.
The man himself, David Espinosa Hall. What caught your attention today, David?
Yes, good afternoon. I am always looking for good headlines, guys, and these next stories have caught my attention. So some athletes want to win championships, then become all-star players and date beautiful celebrities. And this guy right here is no different. He has his eyes on this lady right here. 76er center Joel Embiid wants to play in the All-Star game, and it's not for his resume, but for a date with Rihanna. So this guy tweeted out that the singer said the only way he could get a date would be to become an All-Star. So Joel is putting in some work and shooting for the stars literally by asking you to vote him into the All-Star game. Now, you might remember Embiid for another reason. He and DeMarcus Cousins with the Sacramento Kings got into a back and forth. Here's that footage. This was in a game. These two exchanged butt slaps on the way up and down the floor. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see if Joel gets his date with Rihanna. And forget singing and Grammys. You might think Justin Timberlake could play in the league after seeing this next video here. Roll the clip. After Tuesday night's game between the LA Lakers and the Grizzlies from Memphis, Justin hit that half-court shot. This was at Staples Center, showing off some of his hoop skills. You can hear the crowd there in the background a little bit, people cheering as a 35-year-old singer and songwriter made not one but two half-court shots with ease, folks. Timberlake is a huge basketball fan, and he actually has ownership stake in the Memphis Grizzlies. Look at him walking back so smooth. Let's move to Saudi Arabia now, where a music video has started a huge debate. Now, this video here has more than 2 million views. This thing focuses on what women cannot do in Saudi Arabia. You see them in the video skateboarding and playing sports, and you also see them getting inside of a car with a young boy getting in behind the wheel. In Saudi Arabia, most women cannot drive or even get a driver's license. A lot of people talking about that clip. So that is what caught my attention today. And folks, feel free to weigh in on our website at king5.com, and you can even tweet me at @DEspinosa_Hall. Mark and Amanda, back to you.
I know you're a huge basketball fan, so I understand those two clips. I like what you're throwing out.
They got your attention?
You know, David, back in the day, you could win a Buick at a Sonics game if you made that. They would draw a name out, and if you made that half-court shot, you'd win a Buick.
That's pretty cool, and I know Timberlake can afford a couple of Buicks.
Yeah, more than a couple. All right, David, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys.